I never planned to fall in love with Catherine, and I definitely never plan to fall in love with a woman more than twice my age. But life doesn't ask for your plans, does it? It just happens. And sometimes, when you least expect it, it gives you exactly what you didn't know you needed. I was 25 when I met her, fresh out of college, working my first real job at a marketing firm in Philadelphia. I was restless, ambitious, maybe a little lost if I'm being honest. I had everything figured out on paper: good job, decent apartment, a girlfriend who was perfectly fine, but not perfectly right. You know that feeling? When everything looks good from the outside, but something's missing on the inside. Catherine was our client. She owned a small bookstore in the historic district, one of those places that smells like old paper and coffee, where the floors creak and every shelf has a story. The kind of place that shouldn't exist anymore, but does because someone loves it enough to keep it alive. That someone was her. The first time I walked in her store, I wasn't prepared. Not for the store, and definitely not for her. She was standing behind the counter, reading glasses perched on her nose, completely absorbed in a book. The afternoon light was coming through the front windows, and there was this moment, this split second, where I just stopped. I don't know how to explain it except to say that something shifted in me, something I didn't have words for yet. When she looked up and smiled, I forgot why I was there. I literally forgot. She had to ask me twice if she could help me, and I stood there like an idiot before finally remembering I was supposed to be pitching her our social media services. "You're the young man from the marketing firm," she said, and her voice had this quality to it. Warm, measured, like every word mattered. I have to be honest with you. I'm probably the worst person in the world when it comes to social media. I barely know how to use my phone. She laughed, and I laughed, and suddenly we were talking. Not about marketing or business plans, but about books, about why she opened the store, about the neighborhood. She made me coffee, real coffee, not the instant kind, and we sat at this little table by the window for 2 hours. 2 hours. I was supposed to be there for 30 minutes max. When I finally left, I couldn't stop thinking about her, and I told myself it was because she was a potential client, that I was just being professional, building rapport. But I knew that wasn't true. I knew it even then. Over the next few weeks, I found excuses to go back, to drop off proposals, to check on her thoughts about her ideas, to bring her examples of bookstores that were doing interesting things online. Every time, she'd make coffee. Every time, we'd talk. And every time, I'd leave feeling more awake than I had in months. Maybe years. I learned about her life in pieces. Small details she'd drop in a conversation like breadcrumbs. She'd been married for 28 years. Her husband had left 4 years ago for someone younger. The irony of that isn't lost on me now. She had 2 grown children, both living out of state. The bookstore had been her dream, something she'd opened after the divorce, when she was trying to figure out who she was without someone else defining her. "I spent so many years being someone's wife, someone's mother," she told me once. I forgot to be Catherine. The bookstore is me remembering. I didn't tell her what I was beginning to realize. That when I was with her, I was remembering too. Remembering that conversations could be exciting, that someone could make you think. That attraction wasn't just about what someone looked like, but about how they made you feel when you were around them. I felt alive with Catherine. I felt seen. My girlfriend at the time, Melissa, started noticing I was distracted. We'd be having dinner, and I'd be somewhere else. She'd ask me what I was thinking about, and I'd lie and say work. But it wasn't work. It was Catherine. It was the way she'd tuck her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. The way she'd close her eyes when she laughed at something genuinely funny. The way she listened like what you were saying was the most important thing in the world. I knew it was wrong. I knew I shouldn't be thinking about a client this way. I knew the age difference was impossible to ignore. 58 and 25. Those numbers sat in my head like a neon sign, flashing a warning I didn't want to see. But age gap romance doesn't ask for permission. Real connection doesn't care about numbers on a birth certificate. And forbidden love, it just makes the heart want what it wants even more. 3 months after we met, Something changed. I'd stopped by the store after closing to drop off some reports. She'd had a long day. You could see it in her eyes. And when she opened the door, she just looked tired. Beautifully tired, but tired. "Come in," she said. I could use the company. We sat in the back office, surrounded by boxes of new inventory and half-empty cups of tea. She told me about how her ex-husband had called that day, how he wanted to know if she was seeing anyone, how the question had stirred up all these feelings she thought she'd dealt with. "He made me feel invisible for so long," she said quietly. "Toward the end, I'd walk into a room and he'd look right through me, like I wasn't even there, like I'd stopped being worth seeing." I couldn't help myself. I leaned forward and said, "Catherine, you're the most visible person I know." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and something passed between us. Something electric and terrifying and completely undeniable. The air in that small office felt suddenly too thin. "You're 25 years old," she whispered. "You should be out with people your own age, living your life." "I'm living my life," I said. "Right here, right now." I should have left. I should have stood up, made an excuse, walked out the door. Instead, I stayed. We both stayed. And we talked until 3 in the morning about things I'd never talked about with anyone. About fear and dreams, and the ways we hide from ourselves. About what it means to be truly seen by another person. When I finally left, neither of us said what we both knew. That something had shifted, that we'd crossed a line, even if we hadn't done anything wrong. I broke up with Melissa the next week. It wasn't fair to her, staying when my heart was somewhere else. She deserved someone who was all in, and I couldn't be that person anymore. She cried and asked if there was someone else, and I told her honestly that there wasn't. Not in the way she meant. Not yet. But there was someone else in my head, in my heart, and I didn't know what to do about it. For weeks, I stayed away from the bookstore. I told myself I was being professional, giving her space, not making things weird. But really I was scared. Scared of what I was feeling. Scared that she didn't feel the same way. Scared of what people would say. Scared of the age difference and what it might mean. True love has no age, people say. But when you're living it, when it's your life and not some inspirational quote, it's complicated. It's messy. It's terrifying. Catherine was the one who reached out. She emailed me, an actual email, because that's how she communicated, and asked if I was okay. She said she missed our conversations. She said the coffee didn't taste as good when she drank it alone. I went back to the store the next day. When I walked in, she was shelving books in the poetry section. She turned around, and the look on her face, relief, happiness, something deeper, made my chest tight. "I thought I'd scared you away," she said. "You did," I admitted. "But I scare myself more." We stood there in the poetry section, surrounded by words other people had written about love and longing, and I told her the truth. I told her that I couldn't stop thinking about her, that every conversation with her felt more real than anything else in my life, that I knew it was complicated and maybe impossible, but I had to tell her because not telling her was killing me. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I'm 58 years old. I have gray hair I dye every 6 weeks. I have stretch marks and scars and a whole life of history. You're just starting yours." "I'm not looking for someone to start with," I said. "I'm looking for someone who makes me want to be better. Someone who makes me feel something real." "That's you, Catherine. That's been you since the first day I walked in here." She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, they were shining with tears. "What would people say? What would your family think? What about?" "I don't care," I said, and I meant it. "I don't care what anyone says. I care about this. About you. About what we could be if we're brave enough to try." She kissed me then, right there in the poetry section, with the afternoon light streaming through the windows and the smell of old books all around us. And it felt like coming home to a place I'd never been before. That was 2 years ago. 2 years of the most real, most unexpected, most beautiful love I've ever known. It hasn't been easy. Her kids were suspicious at first. My parents didn't understand. Friends made jokes that stung more than they knew. The stares when we're out together, the whispers, the assumptions, they're real. But so is this. So is she. So is what we've built together. Catherine taught me that older woman-younger man relationships aren't about some fantasy or fetish. They're about two people finding something authentic in each other. She taught me that unexpected desire often leads to the truest connection, that the number on your driver's license matters a lot less than the depth of your heart. People ask me sometimes if I think I arrived too late, if I wish I'd met her when she was younger, when things would have been easier. And I tell them the truth. I arrived exactly when I was supposed to. Any earlier, and I wouldn't have been ready for her. Any earlier, and she wouldn't have been who she is now. The woman who rebuilt herself after everything fell apart. The woman who chose courage over comfort. I didn't arrive too late. I arrived just in time. We got married last spring in a small ceremony at the bookstore. It was just us, her kids who finally come around, my parents who've learned to see what I see, and a few close friends. She wore a simple dress and held a bouquet of wildflowers. And when she said her vows, she cried and laughed at the same time. "You made me believe in love again," she said. "You made me believe in myself again. You saw me when I'd forgotten I was worth seeing." I see her every day. Every beautiful, complicated, perfectly imperfect day. And I know how lucky I am. I know that what we have is rare. That age gap romance like ours doesn't follow any rules except the ones we write ourselves. She's 60 now. I'm 27. We're talking about closing the bookstore and traveling for a year. She wants to see the world, and I want to see it with her. Her children are supportive now. They tell me they haven't seen their mom this happy in decades. My parents have learned that love doesn't always look like what you expect, but that doesn't make it any less real. Sometimes, late at night when we're lying in bed, she'll ask me if I have regrets. If I wish I'd fallen in love with someone my own age, someone I could grow old with in the traditional sense. And I tell her what I always tell her. "Catherine, I am growing old with you. Every day with you ages me in the best way. It deepens me. It makes me more of who I'm meant to be. True love has no age. It has no timeline. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment or the right circumstances. It just arrives, sometimes when you're not looking, sometimes when you think it's too late, sometimes when you think you're too young. But it's never too late, and you're never too young. Not when it's real. Not when it's right. I was 25 when I fell in love with a 58-year-old woman. Best decision I never planned to make. So let me ask you something, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you believe that age can truly stand in the way of real love? Have you ever felt a connection so strong that the numbers just didn't matter anymore? Share your story in the comments below. This is a safe space for all of us who know that love doesn't follow society's rules. If this story touched your heart, do me a favor. Hit that like button, drop a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Make sure you turn on that notification bell, because I share new stories like this every single day. Real stories. Emotional stories. Stories that prove love has no age limit, no boundaries, no expiration date. There are so many more stories to tell about the beauty of unexpected connection, about older women and younger men finding something real in a world that tells them it's impossible. And I want to hear for every single one. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. And remember, it's never too late for love, and you're never too young to find something that changes everything. I'll see you tomorrow with another story that'll make you believe in love all over again.